Hello, everyone, and welcome to Introducing Autodesk Takeoff. My name is David Campbell. I'm a Senior Application Specialist with Topcon Solutions Store. And today, we're going to do a brief introduction and then kind of dive into the Takeoff platform or portion of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So for a brief agenda, I wanted to start out about a little bit about who we are as Topcon Solutions. And then we'll dive into some common challenges that we see, not only with Takeoff, but also with the construction industry. And then we'll dive into Autodesk Takeoff here. So going into the About Us portion, Topcon Solutions, we are the retail division to Topcon Positioning Systems. We are a complete solutions provider, meaning that we offer measuring and control hardware systems, as well as complete office software solutions through our partnerships with Autodesk and Bluebeam. We also have industry-leading training and technical support. We offer field troubleshooting, local service repair, and we have some of the widest range of everyday field supplies and accessories. Now, Topcon Solutions by the numbers. We are expanding, so we're growing. We are in currently, we have 13 brick and mortar locations, and we are in 20 states, including Washington, D.C. And currently, we are at around 180 employees. So today, again, my name is David Campbell. I'm a Senior Application Specialist, and I'm going to be taking you guys into what is Autodesk Takeoff. So what are some of the challenges that face estimators today? Well, one, we know that it is very time consuming to do 2D takeoffs. Now, typically we're either going to be doing them with something like OST, Bluebeam, things like that. It can be a very time consuming process. Now, also, we are faced with the typical tight schedules and fierce competition. But one big thing that I did want to touch on today, actually these bottom three are really going to be key here. We usually see a disconnected 2D and 3D takeoff workflow, meaning that we're either using 2D, PDFs, or somebody does have a 3D model that we are able to take off, but generally they're not really connected. They don't talk, right? Then on the other portion of that, we also have distributed teams, which also kind of lends itself to the lack of collaboration. If we have a lot of different teams out there that are doing these different types of takeoffs, and we don't have collaboration on these different models, things tend to get, well, overdone or not done far enough, right? Or we even have some rework that we have to work around. Now, overcoming these challenges. This is a big one here, increasing the collaboration. So if we can give our teams a single source of truth, so a single area to go to or a common data environment, we can increase our team's collaboration in these 2D or 3D environments. Now, in saying that as well, when we have a single source of truth and we have increased collaboration, that tends to also kind of go into a connected 2D and 3D experience. So if we are using those 2D PDFs and 3D models, this is where we're going to go ahead and see the kind of bridging of those different workflows. Now, when we start utilizing a single source of truth or common data environment, when we increase our collaboration and make the 2D and 3D experiences kind of connected, you're also going to see that really just goes into improving the data accuracy. So each time those models change, each time those 2D documents change, they're updated into our single source of truth through our increased collaboration, therefore giving us that improved data accuracy. Now, this is a huge point here, standardization. I wanted to talk about this one for a minute because this kind of standardization can help us build all of this out in terms of increasing our collaboration, single source of truth, that connected experience, and improving our accuracy by standardizing our processes, right? So if we are using that common data environment, what type of models, what type of sheets are we posting up? How are we doing that in terms of breaking them down, bringing them together, naming conventions, the type of takeoffs that we're going to do, the tools. There's a lot of different things that go into standardization. But again, once we can get to that point, that's when we're going to start seeing the other benefits of standardization. And the last portion of this, I know this is kind of already what track we're on anyways, but it's that digitization. Digitization is really going to be huge for every single one of these points in terms of increasing collaboration, that single source of truth, because we're digitizing that data, allowing everyone involved in this project to utilize that metadata that is stored within either our 3D documents, our models, or our 2D documents, right? So let's get into what is Autodesk Takeoff. So Autodesk Takeoff allows estimators to perform more accurate 2D takeoffs and generate automated quantities from 3D models within a single takeoff solution. Okay, and one thing I do want to go ahead and make sure I point out before we move on is that Takeoff is really going to be estimator focused, and it's really focused again on generating these quantities from our 2D or our 3D models, right? It's not really about, I guess, finalizing and doing your complete, I want to say it's for takeoffs, not for estimations, right? We're going to say that in that case, we're doing our takeoffs, we're pulling our materials or pulling our elements. You're not really going to go ahead and create, let's say, formulas. Now, know that you can create formulas, but you're not really utilizing this for everything to take off all of those estimates to build it's not replacing some of those bigger estimation platforms. This is something that can be used along with or used kind of on its own, right? But again, it's really focusing on aggregating this data and getting those quantities for us so we can take that data out and push it out to our ERP system or whatever that we may be using to pull those estimates together. Now, where does Takeoff fit on the Construction Cloud? A lot of people have heard about Autodesk BIM Collaborate, right? That is the portion that you need if you want to either BIM Collaborate or BIM Collaborate Pro. That's Autodesk Docs. That's going to be your design collaboration, your model coordination, the capability to collaborate your centralized models or model data into well, Autodesk Docs and to share that information with everyone else. Autodesk Takeoff is actually a little bit separate from that. So what's nice about it though is that it is its own separate model that is or module, excuse me, that is focused on Takeoff, but it is built right on top of Autodesk Docs. So just as before with BIM 360, Autodesk Docs is going to be our base. Everything is built from Docs. When we're pulling our 2D sheets or we're going to grab our 3D models, we're going to grab those from Docs. And the reason that we're going to do this and the reason why I wanted to touch on this too is because that gives us that single source of truth, right? If we utilize the collaborate portion within Docs, that gives us the increased collaboration. So once those models are updated, those documents or those PDFs, what have you, are updated and stored in Autodesk Docs, we're going to be able to take that information into Autodesk Takeoff to update or make our new takeoffs, okay? Now you're also going to see that with Takeoff, you also get insights, so those dashboards, reports, some construction IQ in that data connector, as well as the administration properties of setting up your user management, the Autodesk ID, but also utilizing those project administrators. All right, so Autodesk Takeoff, and I kind of spoke on this already, but you're kind of seeing the trend here of connected teams kind of, well, they push into connected workflows, which really gives us that connected data, okay? And that's the big thing that we're looking for here, is that data. Now, some of Autodesk's Takeoff capabilities and workflows, I wanted to cover this in terms of what we're gonna get. Now, with document management, again, this being the base, but document management is that single source of truth, giving us that document control, that document versioning, and approval processes so we can submit some of our documents for review and approval, so we can do that all right within Docs. And then we have the quantification portion, or the takeoff, which is going to give us that scope analysis. It's going to give us 2D takeoffs as well as 3D takeoffs, okay? Now, again, you're going to see the unified data below. This just means that with that single source of truth, we're going to have unified model data, drawings, documents, cost items, assets, photos, videos, different things like that that we can utilize within these processes to go between docs and takeoff here. Now, takeoff gives us the capability to deliver accurate takeoffs faster, whether they're 2D or 3D. We can aggregate all of those quantities into a nice report and export that out into a CSV format. But on the other side of this, so this is again one side of takeoff, the other side is the document management and user management coming over from the admin and the unified data here. So user management gives us the capability to, of course, manage what users have permissions to do what, get into which folders, do takeoffs, things like that. And document management itself, when documents are updated, models are updated, we're going to have that versioning control to tell us that they are the most recent up-to-date model or not. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get right into Autodesk Takeoff. All right, so within Autodesk Takeoff, you'll notice that a lot of the theme is kind of the same as when we get into our docs or design or model coordination. We're going to see the Autodesk Construction Cloud logo here on the top left. You're going to see your module selector here, so you will notice that I'm already in Takeoff. And then here's where we can choose our project. So right now I'm working in my Autobahn school project. Now, as a quick note, I know I've kind of talked about this in one of my previous webinars, but I wanted to make sure I talk about it as well here. With the move over to ACS or the Autodesk ACC or ACS, with Autodesk Construction Cloud and BIM 360, okay? When you're looking at your project dropdowns, one way to notice whether you're working in the ACC project or you're working in a BIM 360 project is to just look for these little logos that are next to your project name. The globe with the lines through it, that's going to be the Autodesk Construction Cloud. The B here, that is BIM 360. All right. So jumping into my home screen here in Takeoff, it's going to say, welcome, David. Here's what's happening on your projects today. So it's going to give me a nice little overview of what's going on with my different models. Now, this getting started bar, this is going to be there until you choose to dismiss it or get rid of it. But when you start a new Takeoff project, this is kind of helpful in helping you to set up the overall Takeoff project that you're going to do. This is where it actually takes you right in to define your classification and measurement systems for your projects. You can upload your 2D and 3D files in your sheets and models, and then here's where you can actually create your Takeoff packages. Now, again, you don't need to leave this up there. It is for just when you get into Takeoff into that initial project. Now, you're also going to see down below recent sheets and models and then recent Takeoff packages. So I can click on either one of these here, and it's going to take me right into any one of these sheets and models or packages. So if I know that I was working on flooring and I want to jump right back into it, all I need to do is click right here on flooring, and it's going to take me right into that Takeoff package. Now I'm going to back out of this for a second because I want to go over to the packages here. That is the next drop down under home. There's packages. So when we click on packages, this is where it's going to take us, right? We're going to see our typical create package. You'll see if you have created any down below. This is where they'll populate. Now, some of you are probably asking, Dave, what is a Takeoff package? What does this do? Well, the way that this works is when we go to take our actual takeoffs in our sheets and models, we want to be able to essentially group all of our takeoffs into what are called packages in this sense, right? So if I know that I'm going to be taking off my footings or any concrete walls cast in place or, sorry, I can't think of the word now. I'm going to go ahead and skip over, but essentially if it's poured there or if it's prefabricated and brought to the site. In flooring, we have our different types of flooring, wall covering, same thing. We can use these packages. So let's say I want one for mechanical. I'm going to call this mechanical equipment. And when I say create package, there's my mechanical equipment package. Notice that it doesn't take me anywhere. It doesn't do anything yet. It's just giving us a way to group these takeoff elements that we're going to make here in a minute into a package, and it gives us a way to track all of that information based off of these packages. Now, before I dive too deep into it, I really want to go into the settings as well, because that is going to be a huge portion of what you need to do to set up this project to make sure everything is copacetic and runs smoothly for your project. So I'm going to go ahead and click into settings. Now, what you'll notice is I've already essentially I've set my classification system here. But in the project and package settings, this is where you're going to see how to set your measurement system, whether it's imperial or metric, and then choose your classification system. So right now I'm using my master format as my main system, but you'll notice that we can use an additional classification system. Here's where I chose to bring in my uniformat. Okay, now you'll also notice you can upload custom classification systems, and you can use Autodesk's if you want to go ahead and essentially sandbox it. But again, you can import your own classification system if you want to. What you'll notice is, since I've got with master format here, I have all of my different spec sections and all of my different packages that I can kind of break down. So if I know that I'm going to be using any forming for my concrete, I can go with the structural cast in place, insulation concrete forming, permanent stair forming, different things like that. I can go ahead and utilize those. So again, another note on those is, once you have utilized a classification system, once you do a takeoff with that classification system, it's locked, can't be changed. So again, you'll notice that my master format here is grayed out. I just cannot have anything. It's giving me that tooltip there that I need to delete all existing takeoff types and items in the project before this can be changed. So just as a heads up there, if any of you are hoping to, have a couple of different types that you may need to classify from, you might want to, of course, utilize one here, but this is where you would upload that second classification system, so you don't have to go back through, delete everything, and try bringing in another classification system. All right, so that is packages. Now, below packages, this is where we're going to see our sheets and models. Now, I'm going to go through an introduction of what these are first, and then we're going to dive into the actual takeoff workflow. But with sheets and models, this is where you're going to see your 2D sheets and your 3D models. Now, with 2D sheets, I can go upload files. You'll notice it'll bring up a nice little dialog box here. I can bring them in from my computer and drop them in. It's going to process it much like it normally does to pull in the sheet name, the sheet number, the version set, that type of information, giving it tags. So if I did want to go ahead and filter for a specific version set or tags in terms of architectural, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, structural, it's going to let me do that. Now, the other thing I did want to talk about here is that you'll notice the upload process itself with documents. It's a very smooth, clean process. They do run OCR over those documents to essentially make that data usable, like viable, right? And essentially, most of the time it's going to build out the tags itself. The version set is specified based on what you're uploading if you want to go ahead and group these different documents together. But the tags are pulled based on the sheet's information. Okay, that's really what we're going to see. Now, I kind of want to go over to one of these 3D models, and then I'll go into the files here real quick, because this is going to tie together pretty nice. What you'll notice with the sheets and models is that your 3D models also have upload here, and your 2D sheets do as well. But I'm going to move over to files here for a second. Where do you guys think files comes from? Well, files, actually, if you'll look down here from for the field and project files, this is going to be docs, right? So going back to that single source of truth conversation and how it's the base earlier, we still have access into all of these documents. Now, the way that you get sheets and models into this tab here, there's a couple of different ways to do it. One, I already showed you guys, we can use upload files and manually pull those PDFs and our 3D models into the takeoff space. The next way to do this is if we know that we have a document set, say my Seaport Civic Center here, when I check mark, you'll notice publish to takeoff sheets and models populates right here. So I can just hit publish, I can specify my version set name and the issue date. Now, I know I've already done this, so I'm not going to go ahead and do this twice, but that's how you can publish those 2D sheets right into the sheets and models portion to be ready for takeoff. Now, what you'll also notice, though, is that when I do this with my School Arch 2021, it does not give me that option. So as of right now, we still have to manually upload the 3D models into the sheets and models portion, but I do know that's on the roadmap as far as being able to publish those models right from docs into the 3D models. Okay, now a good question here, does it have to be from your computer? Well, no. Guess what? If you utilize the desktop connector, so we can go right through Autodesk Docs, and we can go back into our project, pull that 3D model right from our project and bring it right here. So in that sense, guys, and I know there's been some talk about a disconnected workflow, right? If this model is hosted on my desktop and I'm doing takeoffs on it while the other model, the real model, is on BIM 360, I've already set myself up for a little bit of failure or lag, right? Because my data can be outdated. In this case, I could go ahead and find my Autobahn school project here. I would find my project files. And this is where I can find any one of my models to go ahead and pull in right here for my 3D takeoff process. All right, so still keeping that data alive from the cloud, pulling that in from our projects. Now you'll notice that every time you do update these will also be version controlled, so we know that we are on the right version. All right. So heading back into packages, this is where we're going to get into essentially, well, one of two ways. Either you can go into packages and click on your actual package itself, or you can go into sheets and models and click on your sheet or model that you want to do the takeoff on. Either way, it's going to ask you to go through kind of the same process. So if I click on concrete, what you'll notice is it's going to take me right to sheets and models, and it'll ask me what models or what sheets do I want to start doing my takeoffs on. Now, in this case, I know that I'm going to be working with concrete, so I know I'm going to bring up my structural. So I have a few of my different structural plans here. Now let me close out of this one, and I want to get into the office basement. All right, now since I'm in this office basement here, what I can do is go ahead and get out of the sheets and models, but go over to the takeoff types. See, right now I have a 7x7 footing that's been drawn, and it's giving me the cubic yardage for that specific takeoff. But if I want to create a new takeoff, this is where I can go ahead and create a new takeoff type. Now, if I want to reuse the 7x7 footing, all I have to do is click on it, and I have my tool. Okay, and I can go ahead and grab my volumes for those. If I want to create a new takeoff type, though, maybe let's call this a 12 by 12. 12 by 12 rectangular column. Notice I can take an area command, so I can take an area measurement. I can take a linear measurement or a count. So if I'm just trying to get the count of how many 12 by 12 columns that I have, I can go ahead and let's say use the check mark here. I'll put let's go orange border around it. Okay, now my primary output. So this is the classification system that we're going to include this in. Right now I know that this is concrete, but I could also say, is this precast? Is this cast in place? Most likely this is cast in place, and we're going to go with structural concrete. Now, do we want our output to be in square feet, lineal feet, cubic yards, tons, or each for our count? Now, we also have a few more pieces that we can utilize here as well, but I'm going to go ahead and go into count each, and I'm going to say start takeoff. When I hit my start takeoff, I can go ahead and start counting each one of these different columns. All right, and now that I have it, it's giving me my count here, 8 each, okay? Now, you'll also notice that there's a nice little inventory sheet down along the bottom here. So if I click on my 7x7 footing, it's going to go ahead and give me each one of the instances of these 7x7 footings, what its height is, what its area is, and which document it's located on. And then again, if I click on my 12x12 rectangular columns, I'm going to see that I have quite a few of these. Now, I also notice that I'm pulling not only my 12x12, but I'm pulling my 16-inch as well. So this is where if I know that I'm pulling too many items, I can go ahead and essentially do a filter for some of these, right? To go ahead and make sure that I'm not getting too many items. All right, so I can group by the primary classification, the secondary classification, the takeoff type itself. So right here, I'm just doing the takeoff type. Here's my 12x12. And now I can go ahead and export these out into that CSV format. Take a second for it to open up here. There we go. So it kicks it right out into Excel for me here. All right. Now, again, I'm going to go ahead and close down this inventory really quick, but you build out your different takeoffs. We can import takeoff types if someone has gone through and standardized some of these already. We can reuse that then. Okay, now if I go over to, say I'm going to get out of my concrete and I really want to go into the mechanical equipment. And I'm going to get out of the structural sheets. All right, so now I can get into any one of my office or my mechanical sheets in this case. All right, so let's go into basement. Let's see what's in there. All right, so I have a couple different types of pumps and looks like some air handling units or some furnaces right up here. What I can do with this, and you'll notice it's telling me the scale is not set for this document yet. Now, when I get down here, I'll notice that I have 1/8 of an inch equals a foot. So I can go ahead and utilize some of my preset scales here to go ahead and set that. Or if you're more comfortable with actually calibrating it, we do have a calibration tool here to set the scale. And typically what you'll do is you'll find a known dimension string or your grid lines, anything like that with a known dimension to calibrate this document off of. Now, in terms of my mechanical equipment, this is where I know I'd probably just use a count tool. And then I can go ahead and count through the different elements that I have here, okay? Now, is this gonna be the best use of my time? No, it's not. If I have a 3D model to be able to utilize in this sense, I'm gonna go ahead and exit this. I'm gonna go into my sheets and models. This time I'm gonna go over to my 3D models. And let's say I want to get into my school MEP. Now you'll notice it's asking me to select a takeoff package to really get into takeoff mode. So I'll go ahead and grab that and switch it over to the mechanical equipment. In this case, I'm gonna use my, let's go with filter, tags, and go mechanical. Where my 3D model is. I do apologize about that. It's not going to come through for me this time, so I'm going to go ahead and do that again. 3D models. There we go. All right. So with my takeoff types, right now I don't have any created. Okay. But again, this is where I can go ahead, create one, and let's say I want to do AHU. And we're going to go with BIM count, okay? Now, if we're trying to pull information from this model, we can go ahead, get into our settings, we can get into the properties. So here where we can actually get in and see this is one of the AHUs non-hosted right here. So we can pull a little bit of information in terms of what kind of AHU this is, what kind of manufacturer, anything like that. If you're looking for specific voltage, any abbreviations, any tags or anything like that that we may be able to use. Now, another cool thing that I want to be able to show here is I only have one of these AHUs in this drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and just use my BIM tool here. I'm going to say classification is mechanical. And we want to go with, let's see, right there. And we want to open this up. We will do HVAC air distributions, and we can do outlets. And let's see, I'll do it with an air terminal unit, that's fine. Start takeoff, and right now it only says one, right? Obviously, because there is only one in this model. But if I'm curious about finding any of these here, which this might be our heat pump, if I right click on this, notice that I can actually select all of these heat pumps. So I do have quite a few more in this view. Now is where I can go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to use my heat pump, the 5-ton horizontal. I'm going to keep the naming since I've already selected it. It automatically names this tool for me. I can have it fill in, and this is where I can go ahead with my classification. And maybe I say heat pump and air source unitary or water source unitary. So we're going to go with air source. And then we're going to hit start takeoff. Now you'll notice that it counted all 6 of these for me automatically. Again, if I wanted to select my ducting, anything like that, it's really nice and easy to just be able to go ahead and select any of these and then select all of our instances. So I can go ahead and estimate all of my piping, all of my conduit, my electrical, if I wanted to grab any of my, let's say, duplex outlets here, anything like that, my 3-ways. I would just right click and select all of those elements and instantly be able to create a takeoff for any one of those elements, well, utilizing the data that's already built into them. So kind of tying back to that single source of truth, that unified data and standardization. If we have a lot of these boxes and tools, elements in this Revit model or CAD model or what have you, we're going to be able to utilize those tools to just, do our takeoffs quickly and essentially standardize those reports that are going to come out at the end. All right. So let me go ahead. Now, the last thing I really wanted to kind of go into before wrapping things up was the members, because that's a big thing too, right? We got into document control, or a little bit into document management. We got into what we can actually do with Takeoff. The other portion of this is the control of it, right? So adding new members. Here's where we can go ahead and bring in the different members, specify their company, give them a role, and then say, okay, you know what? I just want you to use Takeoff and Docs. And then we can bring them right into our project. Now, in terms of permissions with Docs and things like that, that does have to be established within Autodesk Docs. And that just means that you're giving people permissions to access different folders or the sub-level of data that's inside of any one of these folders. You would need to go ahead and specify their access. Let me bring that one up again so we can see that. So you can specify their access, whether it's going to be just viewing and downloading, creating, so view, download, and publish markups, creating information, uploading data actually into that model, edit, manage, and so forth. So really getting down to the granular permission level of what anybody can do inside of these folder structures or in the data itself. All right. Now, again, before I kind of wrap this up, I wanted to kind of bring everything together with the 2D and the 3D takeoffs here, especially with, let's say, if I wanted to, again, export any of that data out. When I go back to my packages, I can simply get into my inventory list here and then be able to see any one of these elements pop up here to export that out into that CSV or let's say, CSV format to go down the line into what other type of maybe ERP system or that estimating system that you may be using. Make sure I get into this here. We will go into packages, bring up my inventory. Why isn't coming up for me here? There they are. All right. Now, let me go ahead and get back into my presentation here, but does anyone have any questions for us on Autodesk Takeoff? I know we have a few more minutes here before we need to wrap up, but I wanted to leave this open for anyone to be able to ask any questions that they may have. Now, you can put those questions either in the questions pane, or we do have the chat bar as well. All right, well, I'm not seeing anything pop up. Cole, have you seen anything pop up by chance?
I have not, nope.
All right, well then, if you want to learn more about Autodesk Takeoff, or if you would like a focused demonstration, I know that I kind of went all over the place with a little bit of structure, a little bit of mechanical, didn't really get too much into the architectural portion of it, or the civil kind of horizontal construction. If you're looking to do dirt moving takeoffs or anything like that, just reach out and let us know, app.ocensus.com, and we can get an Autodesk demo set up for you, again, kind of tailored to your workflow, what you're looking to see with this, and help you get started as well. We also do implementations, training, and support for this, so kind of full circle. All right, thank you everyone for your time. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We have our number here. You'll also find a lot of our content or videos on YouTube and Topcon Solutions Store under YouTube there, or the topconsolutions.com as well.